this computer. So we're recording. Hi, everybody. Um, Welcome, Maria Kohler, aka Kitty Crimes. I sent you links to her music, so hopefully you've all had a chance to listen to her music. And also, as I said, she is working in pop idioms and hip hop idioms, and also doing production and beat making work for people. And I know people had questions about that kind of stuff in other, um, in private chats with me, but in other sessions, it's come up too. So it's an open format. You guys can, how it goes. Maria, you can talk if you want at the beginning, or we can just take questions from people. Um,
Cool. I'd actually be curious to know if there are any questions, and if not, I'll just kind of riff on what my process is. But like coming from different people's perspectives about like this is what is happening with me. How do you handle that situation? Or like this is my take on it. How does it compare or contrast to what you have? So I'll like keep it open for questions, and then if not, I'll just kind of go into a spiel. But I mean, I may as well just do an introduction anyway, though.
okay.
Okay, so I'll do my spiel. So I'm Kitty Crimes. I have been writing songs and producing for the last 15, you could actually say 17 years. When I was 13, I made an album of beats. I've made an album of 10 songs, which I'm very impressed by now because it's so hard for me to release more than like 3 songs at a time. Like Little Me was just stoked on putting out material. But yeah, I've always been creating. It's been something that's like really inherent to me. There's really been no question as to like whether it's something I should be doing. And then in my 20s, I started messing around in the Denver music scene with different bands, like different genres of bands, folk, pop. I was hanging out in 2008 when everybody was into Fleet Foxes. So everybody had scarves around their necks and were singing 3-part harmonies. So that was good. And that kind of built my knowledge of like arrangement and songwriting. I had this like folk influence before I went into what I was most interested in, which was pop and hip hop. And I created this project called Kitty Crimes, which was like a very explicit, sassy, just wild energy, uh, queer thing based on the beats that I'd make. And it was just about being like really in your face, and tenacity, I think, was like kind of the cornerstone of that project. And as it's evolved, I've really like grown as a songwriter. I've really tried to incorporate like pop elements and having fun, um, and saying whatever the fuck you want and being whoever the fuck you want with like perspective and just what happens when you grow up. And so I'd say that those are my like my 2 pillars right now, is like perspective and just audacity. And yeah, so I was like reviewing some of my songs that I consider my best ones, and I was like, where was I coming from when I wrote them? And it seems like they kind of come from 2 different places. And one of them, with the more like serious ones, I don't know if anyone listened to my stuff, but with the song like 2 Weeks, like something that means a lot to me, uh, that beat, actually, I was just so in love with somebody that I took their album that they made, they released it to me privately, and I was just so heartbroken and messed up about it that I took their album, I sampled different parts of their album, I made a beat, and then I wrote a song about them over it. I was not thinking about like how extra that was going to seem to them once I like released the song, but nevertheless, like, yeah, I was just in a complete state of devotion to this person. Um, But the other thing I noticed about songs like that, about my more serious stuff or things that come from like when my heart's bleeding, is that it actually comes from when I have perspective also. Like I can't just be so mired in my process that just like junk comes out. It usually comes at a time when I'm genuinely feeling what's happening, but I also understand what's happening. Does that make if that makes sense to people? So that was a cool like realization to come to, and I'm really grateful to be in this class to have had it. And yeah, so that's one take is like just go off the deep end with like what you're feeling, but also look for like what the lessons are that you've garnered from it. Um, and if you really want to freak somebody out, just sample their whole album and write songs about it. Let me see what else I wrote about in this. And then like another not strategy that I use, but another natural way that I go about making songs is like having so much fun or like just wanting to make punchlines that's all it is about. Like it's not about censoring, it's not about like crafting perfect sentences. It's about just like really enjoying an instrumental track that you have or a set of chords that you have, and then line by line just like trying to make yourself laugh, like being your own friend. It's like, yeah, it's like if you had your best friend, you know how like if you're in a room of people and they say that the person you look to first when somebody makes a joke is like who you love the most. It's like if you're trying to write a cocky song, or if you're trying to write something that has like confidence or is fun, kind of be writing towards that person that like if you made that joke you would like look to, the first thing you would look to in the room. I think is kind of like where I come from with my more like explicit rap shit. And more specifically, I'll take a beat and I'll write one line. And once I have that one line, I'll like make sure I get the cadence of it down. So I'll get the cadence of one line, get it right, and then I'll write the next line, and it'll be like line one, line two. Once I get line two, like the rhythm of that perfectly, it'll be like line one, line two, line three, and the whole song will just kind of progress by perfecting each line as I go. I don't know if anyone, I don't know if anyone goes about it that way, but that's my vibe. And then there's actually one other strategy that I use, which is I'll take an instrumental, I'll take a beat that I like, and I'll just be completely stream of consciousness and not let it make any sense. Like from a kind of a spiritual perspective, I just channel whatever is going on with me, but I will just write words that sound poppy and like they could go together. And usually when I go back, even maybe like 6 months in time, like those words end up usually being prophetic or make total sense. Like I don't know how that happens, but when I'm writing pop songs, I definitely go for like just like getting completely out of my head and um letting my right brain completely like write the words.
Hmm.
And there's something that makes sense to people about it. Like I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of top 40 pop songs were crafted that way. I mean, they all sound like nonsense. The radio songs just sound like they were jumbled together. So, um, and and if I'm really stumped, I will just be like, what would my favorite artist do? Like, what would my favorite person do? And just write something from the lens of like, if I was them, how would they be writing it?
Hmm.
Um, so I wrote my driving factors are devotion, lust, completely being encompassed by something, having fun, and making jokes. I don't know if anybody relates to this or if. if anyone wants to share what their process is, yeah, I got cool. Chris. Or someone raised their hand and then didn't.
I think she was just Chris was clapping, saying yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, cool. Right on. Do you have like a cadence of how this class goes? Do you want me to just keep riffing on it, or?
I'm just giving people a chance to like get in for a second. It looked like Mario was going to say something.
Oh yeah, I unmuted myself. I was like waiting for you
Yeah.
guys to I don't want to like pop up and interrupt. Hi.
Hi.
I had a question about how you put together your beats, like non-writing stuff, like because I was listening to a couple of your things on YouTube and they were just beats.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to know kind of how you go about creating those.
Yeah. I usually go off some melodic sample first. I'll like find like a melody that is, or like a timbre of some sort of sample that is just really unavoidable for me, or just something where when you listen to it, you're like, oh yeah, like that needs to become a song. Like that feeling, I have to make that feeling into a whole beat. So I usually like
Do you get that from songs that already exist, or do you tend to like, do you make your own little melodic ideas?
it's either that I wrote a song on guitar and then I turn it into like a beat or instrumentation, or I'm pretty sample heavy. Like I love Splice. I think Splice is awesome. So I usually go for like one really dope melodic idea that I find from Splice, and then I construct like instrumentation around it. I have some cool synths, and I'll like build the beat up. But also, why I recommend Splice is some of the like upcoming producers, like some of these producers that are making songs that you like that are like not quite mainstream, but they're like on their way up. Splice will spot these people, and you can kind of get a feel for like the palette of what's going on currently, like the sonic palette of what's happening. And I don't know, I just love the idea of like taking from different places and then creating your own palette to make a beat.
Yeah, that's cool. I've always thought about using other people's samples, or like you're talking about that website. I think I've been there before, like once. And I would just always get scared because I'm like, I don't want anyone to like use something that I use, or like, so I tend to like try to make my own things. Um I don't use a lot of like a like of I don't know how you say or how you call them, but they're like little effects or like little noises that aren't like musical. Like um I don't use too much of that, but I don't know. I've been wanting to get more into those kind of things, but I like want to find a way to make my own. Like a lot of artists will use like little like yelps or like little like you know what I'm talking about, like little just little thingies, like sound design
Yeah,
thingies.
just like the, yeah, like the little ad libs and the stuff that you can find on SoundCloud.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been wanting to get more into that, but just like finding a way to make them myself. Like um, I use Logic X Pro to produce all of my stuff, and they updated it recently. And there's like, well, it might have been always been there, but like I didn't see it until now. But there's like a sampler where you could like edit little noises and stuff like that. So I've been playing around with that a bit. So yeah, that makes sense. Oh, you're talking about the splice thing.
I hope I'm not putting anyone on blast, but I think I heard about like one student who just put up things on YouTube. Is that
That's Mario. I sent you Mario's the short COVID thing.
cool? Yeah, no, I actually saw your stuff, and it's dope. It sounds really streamlined and ready to go. So whatever you're
Oh,
doing, keep it up.
oh, thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know that you had heard it. Um, yeah, I I don't know which one he sent. I recently released another one as well too. It's the whole concept for that is like the like mini quarantine demos. Like they're just like these little tiny. I think the longest one I've had is like a minute and 20 or something like that. But I was hoping that that's like a good idea. Do you have any like opinion on that? Like if like
Oh yeah,
the
I think that's
little
awesome. I heard about this Cuban artist who I forget his name right now, but my friend had showed me him. And he's dope. Like he's super cool, and he was talking about his process for like how he got traction, and he was saying that he just released every just without fail every week he had something in the cartridge, which I know is like obvious, but he had something in the cartridge every week on YouTube, and he got signed to this label because they just saw how consistent he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I vote for that over quality sometimes. Like when it comes to
mm,
platforms like that,
oh, I think she might have froze.
Uh-oh.
oh, sorry.
You're back now. You said when it comes to a platform like that, and then it froze for like, 20 seconds.
Oh yeah, for a platform like that, if you think something is trash, it probably isn't. If you think it's 20%, like just use discernment. If uh if you think somebody else would like it, I would put it out on platforms like that because people are not judging you as hard as you are. And yeah, this person was just consistent.
Yeah,
Also,
my
I
my
found that like songs that I've licensed that have gotten the most attention, I literally labeled them the most basic song I've ever written, like would be the title of the track. Like, don't show anybody this. This track is complete.
Are you there? It's looking like her internet connection's just kind of going in and out. Um, while we're waiting for her to pop back in, just to let everybody know, this week is just a song week, right? So it's just another song. At the end of the week, I'll put, if I haven't put up assignment things or whatever, it's the same workshop assignment as 2 weeks ago, and we'll just kind of go on again, off again, right in the writing phase, and not a whole lot of lecture-y module stuff, just because people should be like writing and producing the music.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with
There,
that.
there you are.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you were talking about labeling, and just label it as like don't show anybody, or this is trash. And I think it cut off at the word trash.
I truly made some trash beats and I gave them to my licensing agency, and they were like, everyone loves this beat. I'm like, why? And it just was like, I don't know. It just sounded kind of like Moe's "We All Need Somebody to Lean On," which is a great track, but I was anyway. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. It's like make stuff with integrity for you, and then give the rest away so as to not be precious. Something like that.
How is it, do you think, to make like in Denver? So there are people who make like poppy music or catchy music, but like you make music that is like pop music, like huge pop music. Like I don't know if this makes sense, because sometimes it's like MIA or something like that. Yes, there's this edgy quality, but there's also um, like like you write the kind of songs that I could hear being like huge hits on the radio, if that makes
Cool.
sense.
Thanks. Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like, when I go, when we could go to shows, like I don't see lots of people on like small stages making that huge kind of sound, right? So do you feel like there's a sense of isolation in trying to make pop music in Denver?
That's a good question. I think my trajectory, my game plan, or not even my game plan, but my motive is to make stuff that a large group of like a large audience could see, but that I'm slipping in more meaningful stuff underneath
Yeah.
the veneer. So like I've always wanted as a producer to know how to make industry standard tracks. I want to know how to make a track that could be on the radio. A, because I want money. B, because that's just a driving tick in me. And then I also am like deeply connected to my sense of spirituality, and I want to make a difference in this world. So I want to make things that sound like of the time, or that like feel good, that are like a bop. But then if you listen to it more, you understand that I'm like actually trying to influence people positively, or that there's a deeper message. And I like that uh, paradox.
Yeah.
I enjoy working within that paradox.
Yeah.
But I know that that's not everybody's MO. So, it's there's a lot of ways to go about it. I always said that I always wished that I was Bjork. Like all my friends are art school kids, and just know how to like OK Kaya. I don't know if anyone listens to OK Kaya, but she's incredible. Just these people that were like, it's not the weirdos. I don't know, just the most weird, out there, abstract, like Grimes. When Grimes was first starting, I always had like a little bit of envy because these people just knew how to be such weirdos. But I just keep them in my friend circle, and I
Yeah.
appreciate and admire them. I'm my own type of weirdo. So
Yeah. My first big show was Sugar Cubes and Public Enemy. And and it was really weird to see, like, now it's weird to think, like, because Bjork, nobody really knew who the Sugar Cubes were, and so Bjork was like trying to get people like to dance and to stand up and stuff, and like they weren't doing it. So it was just a really weird memory that I have of like of this young Icelandic woman who's like who is this person telling us to do things. um
well, was she like "It's Oh So Quiet"? Was it like before that song?
It was before that. It was like the band before she even did debut. Like
Oh,
like Birthday. It was their one hit.
what was she doing opening for Public Enemy?
Well, they were on stage. It was a U2 concert, so they Public Enemy and Sugar Cubes opened for U2.
What were those two bands doing opening for you? That just seems like such a funny lineup.
It is funny, but I think that Bono had, like Bono does have this kind of like inclusive, like let's push it kind of vibe.
That's
It was good. It, yeah, yeah. Or
cool.
whoever in U2, but I think of it as Bono's personality. But
Did you see that in Denver?
that was at Mile High. Yeah.
I heard some wild stories in Denver about like at the Mercury Cafe,
Yeah.
uh like Weezer pulling up, or like Radiohead pulling up to the Mercury Cafe before that
Yeah.
knew who they were.
Yeah. Radiohead played Mercury, and then were playing the Ogden when all their shit got stolen, and then they had to like make Kid A because they got new shit. And, and then they hated coming back to Denver for a long time. They wouldn't come to Denver.
Oh yeah, Tom York, he's so emotional. Got so many feelings. Hi.
Hey,
We're gonna say
um,
something, Ransom? Yeah.
yeah, I had a question. Your Christmas song. Um, I think it's awesome.
Hey.
but I always find it interesting when musicians make like holiday music, because it's either out of like a love for that holiday, or I like to try and get like a wider audience with trying to fit into like a certain um, sense of feeling for the holidays. What was your kind of process going into that as far as like songwriting? Were you thinking more along the lines of like, I want to make this a song that's like important, or was it something that was just like, I want to make this so it like helps me out?
I just love the deep irony of how Christmas music makes no sense whatsoever. There's no point to pop Christmas music. It doesn't. It's just like the weirdest niche in the music industry. I also was in a band called Harpoon Tang, and we would do Christmas specials, and so I just have this like already built-in love for treating Christmas like the ridiculous holiday that it is, and so yeah, I just very stream of consciousness wrote uh, a Christmas track about getting head in a sleigh. um, cause I also had a job once from Craigslist where they were like, we need a rapping Christmas caroler, and I saw that ad on Craigslist. Then I responded to them and I was like, you can't hire anyone else. I am the person you need to hire for this job. And I've been flown out there every year for the past 5 years for this clothing company. It's called Shinesty. They make tuxedos and they spend a lot of money on their Christmas parties. And I'll take like, this is just a digression, but I'll take like the popular songs of the year and I will just totally butcher them into Christmas versions of said pop songs. So I highly encourage you to just play with the dumb irony of that holiday and maybe make some money too. I don't know.
Right, sounds
People
good.
are saying that you're the best in the chat. I don't know if you have your chat open, Maria, but people
No, I don't. Big Christmas. But I have a love for it. I actually want to make for my licensing agency, I want to make an album of just Christmas influenced beats, just because I actually enjoy doing that. It's my own sick pleasure.
It actually is a good thing to have a Christmas song in the back. So my old band got asked like to be on the Elf soundtrack for that movie. And but they like the record company called and they're like, "Do you guys have a Christmas song recorded?" And we're like, "No." They're like, "Can you get one recorded in 2 days?" It's like when we couldn't literally get everybody into the studio in 2 days to like bust out a Christmas song. Or like Cocteau Twins, who like ran our label, they have this version of Frosty the Snowman, and it's fucking ridiculous.
You're in a label run by Cocteau Twins? That's amazing. And it's funny that they would actually be the ones asking you to release a Christmas song. It's like, that's
Yeah,
the most Bjork band I can think of. So if they're asking you to do it,
yeah, yeah. That's
wow,
not
that's amazing.
tongue in cheek. Their version, you guys can look up their version of Frosty the Snowman. It's just hilarious.
It's just like,
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure it's a bizarre odyssey.
yeah, and that's Bella Union is the label. They're still around. But
How many people, how many people do we have in this? 14?
yeah, 14 altogether. There's 27 in the class, but not everybody can make it for synchronous talk.
Do, I might not get any answers on this, but do we have anyone who's like, I write songs completely the opposite of how you do? Like, I do not write songs at all like you. I want to hear from that person. I want someone who's like, no, I absolutely do not go about it that way. And then I actually would be curious to know what their process is. because everyone has a different process. And also, Raja, you could tell me, are a lot of artists here airing on like pop R&B side, or is there more of like a folk psych?
It's like a mixed bag from my perspective. A lot of people are working in the R&B vein, and I hear that kind of influence, and a couple of people are working in like kind of big pop stuff. Zane, and I don't know if Zane's in class today, but yeah, Zane's here. But like Zane like changes styles every other song that he writes. Um, uh,
I love that.
um, yeah, yeah.
I think being defined, you should only define yourself as much as you need to for people to understand what you're doing. But I don't know. I'm always trying to challenge some mold that I have to be, you know. And I think just who I am inherently has always made me have to challenge that. Like I was doing queer, like I was doing queer rap or queer pop music before people were doing it, and so I felt a little bit ostracized, but I also enjoyed the fact that other people weren't doing it. And now I'm older and I like incorporate that into the fact that I don't have to be any age, I don't have to be any sexual orientation, I don't have to be any genre. I can literally do whatever I want. It's just, are you making things that people resonate with? And
How would you say that queer aesthetics come out in your work?
I mean, they used to really influence it, but it was because it's what differentiated me. And now that I find that like it's pretty common and it's pretty normal, I it's almost just like a second thought. It's a second nature thing to me now. So my like fashion wise and like how I present myself is also a big part of who I am as an artist, and the aesthetic that I go for visually definitely influenced by queer culture right now, just because I really enjoy what people are doing visually, I guess. Yeah. How many like straight up guitar songwriters do we have in the class?
You guys raising hands? You guys know how to raise your hands, right?
Cool, got one. Tyler? Ransom, what's your stuff like? Like what kind of genre are you?
Um, Gosh, I don't know. I like my solo stuff. I've mostly done kind of like contemporary rock, I guess. I don't know. I like to throw in some jazz here and there. Um, but I've been trying to do more with my band. And we're more of like a punk rock kind of band. Um, and we actually just put out a song for Halloween and slash election day. Um, so it's uh, yeah, I think my songwriting process, I don't really think too much about uh, the kind of aesthetic that I'm going for at first. I always think of having lyrics first, because I think more about like the poetry of a song and why I'm writing the song, and then I add music to it later once I make it fit. Um, that's how I usually go about things.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I was listening to how Frank Ocean talks about writing songs, and I really respect that process that he has. He says that melodies are supposed to come super easy. Like melodies are supposed to be really effortless. Like whatever comes to the top of your head, and then that the lyrics should be what you kind of agonize over, which is not my process, but it's Frank Ocean, so I definitely pay attention to whatever he says. But I do agree with the fact that, like, you just write a melody, make it easy, and that the lyrics are kind of separate from it in the process. For some people, for me, I also kind of treat them as two separate things.
I've never really about it that way, but that'd be something good to try, definitely.
Yeah, just part of it being effortless and part of it being thought out.
Yeah. I actually hear a lot of Bauhaus and Peter Murphy in your stuff, Ransom. I think I've said that to you before, but it's kind of this post-punk vibe.
Yeah, you've mentioned Bauhaus before, which yeah, I definitely agree. Because I was very much into um, that kind of like Jesus and the Mary Chain and Brian's Jonestown Massacre when I was in high school.
Yeah.
I think that really hit it off.
Nice. There's this genre that I really like right now called hyperpop that is almost like taking Bauhaus sort of stuff, but then just putting it on speed, just putting it on acid, kind of like mindless self-indulgence. You know who mindless self-indulgence is? Or I can't think of another example, but they're like taking post-punk things and then they're just speeding it up and putting techno behind it, and then also singing emo. And like the crackhead in me just loves it very much. Like, there's this like amped, like hella amped thing happening in music right now that is very strange, but I enjoy it in a dark sort of way.
So
And the emo influence. I just like how emo people are being right now.
you mentioned Splice, but how else do you feel like you keep a finger on the pulse of like what's happening in music right now?
TikTok, I don't know. I think that like right now culture is being really influenced by catchy songs. Like whatever is catchy and whatever gets repeated in the algorithm and like pummeled on you over and over again, whether you like it or not, it's influencing how you're going to write a song. Like anybody in this room, if you're on the internet and there's one song that just keeps getting played over and over again in a meme, I would probably like pay attention to what that is or why that is, and not necessarily use that as a tactic in your songwriting, but just to be aware of like what's going on in the world. But at the same time, I also go through periods of refusing to listen to any music, almost in a bordering, I don't know if I have a strange, like, I don't know if I have like a strange mental condition. I'll actually go through like 4 months at a time where I just can't listen to anything except like the 4 artists that I like. And then I'll just cycle out of it. It's a very cyclical thing. And then I'll just become obsessed with what's going on in the world. And then I'll just like retreat back, which I think Lil Wayne did. Lil Wayne talked about how he didn't listen to anything else besides himself, which hi.
I do the same thing. Right now it's Mumford and Sons. For months I've been obsessing over Mumford and Sons.
Yeah. And then you can get out of your shell. Yeah, for me, and I don't know if I should admit this, but for me, I'll just go through periods of time of only listening to Lil Peep. Just love Lil Peep. I don't know what it is.
Goth Boy Click.
Got boy click. I'm glad I'm not alone in that though, because I always thought that was like a weird take.
I get obsessed with like certain R&B artists, and then I start to like make music inspired by them. Like I'll get just like obsessed with like I was obsessed with her. I still am, but like I like mix around. So like Chloe and Halle, was obsessed with them for a minute. There's this new girl that she's like barely just starting out right now, and I'm like super obsessed with her sound right now. Her name is Daniela Andrade, and she does music in Spanish as well, but it's like heavily inspired by R&B, and I'm just like obsessed with her right now. She's awesome.
Sweet. Daniela Andrade?
Daniela Andrade. I'll put it in the chat. I'll spell it.
Cool.
She's awesome. She released an EP recently that's really good.
Yo, Latinx pop music right now is like popping off. Like Arca and Rosalia and
Yes, I love both of them. I love Rosalia. I love her.
yeah, it's crazy to see where Arca has Bjork. Arca plays with Bjork the most out there, and now they're starting to make like super trappy reggaeton techno. Like
Yeah,
that.
I really like where and I think she's transitioned. Correct? Arca has transitioned or is in the stages of transitioning.
Yes.
Yeah, so I know that she and she's been working a lot with like I know overall she does popular stuff. Like she was working, I think she worked with Kanye West for something as well, but like her name was on it, but like not on it, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's definitely cool to see like these artists that are kind of like out there artists coming into popular mainstream. Like people know who they are now. It's really cool.
I always thought that was the dream. I always thought the dream wasn't to be like really, really famous. That sounds terrifying and horrible, but to be somebody who has like a level of Arca fame or FK Twigs fame, you know, or that area of influence where the bigger people are asking for your help and like, you know, everyone knows who James Blake is, but these smaller artists who are super influential to what's going on in trends in music, like James Blake working on Kendrick Lamar's Damn and Beyonce's stuff, and Arca working with Bjork. And who else did you say they worked with?
Arca, oh, Rosalia?
No, but there's like
No.
one big artist that you said they worked with for.
I think it was Kanye.
Kanye.
Oh, Kanye. I was like, wait.
Everyone needs to stop influencing Kanye right now because he just needs to chill. But still, yeah, like, yeah. I always thought that was the dream, to just be influential enough to have your like fingerprints in pop music and not necessarily be detectable.
That is totally the dream. I
Yeah.
would say that is my dream. The reason why I feel like I put my stuff out is just kind of to get like, hey, I make music. Like this is what I do, you know, like hire me so I could like write for your album. I don't really think that the
Yeah.
whole star thingy is for me. I don't think I'm really cut out for it, but I think it'd be awesome to like have a small fan base and just be able to like have a house and a car and like live my life, you know?
For sure. And if you do have the aspirations of being a star, like if anyone does have that aspiration of like that is a part of their musical expression, I I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think that it's a part of pop culture, and I've always said that I have this theory about how if you want to become successful at anything, some people are successful wildly so, but they don't really deserve it. And it's because they have a massive delusion of grandeur. And their delusion of grandeur just skyrockets them into whatever they want because people believe what they're saying and they don't necessarily deserve it. So I feel like my theory is if you want to be successful, you need to cultivate a small conscious delusion of grandeur, which is to say, like, I am confident enough to show you what I have and that you should show it to a large number of people. Like, if everyone in this chat just gets over that now, you're going to get somewhere so much more quickly. But at the same time, always to have perspective, always to remain non-douchebaggy. Anyone can also argue me on this theory too. I would love for somebody to be like, no, you're completely wrong. Or for someone to be like, no, you're completely right. No in between.
I think you have to do it with yourself and also like with like your friends community. Like if you treat like if you're I don't know, I always thought of it like the surrealists, right? Or like any kind of art movement that like they like fucking put out manifestos and like wrote about their politics and all this stuff together. And a lot of them like Salvador Dali and all these people become individual like artists, but it's like they treat it like it's like a kind of movement, and then people feel like, oh, that's only the stuff that can like go in museums. But if you treat your own friend community like we're the fucking shit, like this is what's going on, then I feel like it like somebody pops out. Maybe not everybody gets famous, but somebody pops out because everybody's taking each other seriously.
If you do it with perspective and you treat other people the right way and you're not a shitbag, you can do whatever you want. You are allowed to say, as my performance art, I want to be a peacock. Like, I want to be this. Like, you are allowed to do that. Anyone in this room that like needs to hear that right now, you're allowed to be that. Anyone who tells you you're not is so afraid of themselves. They're just afraid of themselves, you know? Like, you just do it with integrity and you do it from the right place. Like for me, I want to craft an aesthetic because I love fashion, and so I want to, and because I'm learning how to be a confident individual. I was like, if you want to get really deep, I was like neglected as a kid. I was bullied as a kid, and I'm sure that influence is part of my performance art of putting myself in front of a lot of people in an uncomfortable context. Like, but that's my motivation is I'm holding myself and I'm putting myself out in front of everybody as an act of self-love. And actually that's more uncomfortable than it is comfortable, and it's something that I have to do. Like, I have to do that just to confront a fear of mine. And I love that shit.
John is, do you see the chat there? John's
Yeah,
asking, how do you handle and get past negativity that affects you?
I use it as fuel. Like, I think if anyone was ever to say, you are 33, like, you can't be a pop artist because you're 33, I would say, okay, I'm going to use that now as my platform for why I should be a pop artist. Now it's because I'm 33. Thank you. Like, it used to be because I was queer, but now everybody's fine with that. You know, it's just like taking that thing. It's like 8 Mile, honestly, not to be such a trope of white rappers from Michigan. But, you know, you take that thing that people can tear you down with and you say, okay, this is my platform. And like, I'm an open book. What do you want to know?
I say the thing that I find that a lot of things that one person finds negative about you is the other thing that a bunch of other people will love about you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I mean, yeah, heck yeah. Connor, what kind of stuff do you make?
I'll be honest, I have no idea. I'm not. I love music, but like it's not where I'm going in my life. You know, I'm actually a mechanical engineering major here at Metro, but
Cool.
I think a lot of my influences come from rock and folk. Um, like my favorite band, like Kaleo. Have you ever heard of them? They're
Kaleo.
amazing. Kaleo. They're a rock band.
CL? CL?
Caleo. It's Hawaiian for sound, but which is kind of cool. But I don't know. But like so, I guess I'm really new. When you were talking about like you put out stuff that like you're like, oh, like this I don't like this at all, like, and it still goes out, and it's like the things that people like. I write a lot of stuff and I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, oh, I can't show anybody that. And so I'm still kind of sheltered about the work I do. um I guess yeah. And as like I feel like I'm a talented singer, but I don't really have any other musical aptitude, so it's kind of challenging for me to express myself musically sometimes, because like I don't quite know where I'm going with.
Well, you're in luck because if you're just a singer, all you need, and you're an engineer, so you know how to do things technically. All you need to do is go on BeatStars and buy an instrumental that you like for $30, and then you could put out an entire album. I mean, there are so many producers on BeatStars that have all sorts of different, or even YouTube. You can like surf through YouTube and they'll have a website in their link of where you can buy from, and you can just, that's how most uh that's how most pop artists do things, is they just find beats they like.
Right. Yeah.
Just a thought. But
Yeah. I don't, oh, man. Also, I'm just so like, man, it's like I guess I'll stop talking. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Uh,
no.
but yeah. When it comes to like where I write from, I try to write the poetry first. I guess because that's where I feel like I'm strongest at, like getting the poetry right first, and then sometimes like a little loop of music will just kind of come in my head, and I'll hum that over and over until I make it work.
Yeah.
Um, and then so that's kind of how I do it. But not, and then I like listen back to my voice memos, and I cringe. I like get real tight. I'm like, oh, I hate that so much.
Yeah.
But
You know, I think sometimes it's just we haven't found the vocal aesthetic that we're looking for yet, and you can scratch a lot of really good ideas just because something was mixed poorly or something wasn't polished the way you're used to seeing it be polished on like a main platform, and you have to break through that level of criticism that you have for it, because that song is probably really good. You just have to either put it in the right genre or have it mixed properly. So if you, I'd say everyone should invest in someone who mixes well, like, because that is probably what, I mean, you can always even auto tune your voice. You don't have to.
no, I don't like. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like doing that because it doesn't seem like it's me, you know.
Sure. Yeah, if that's not your vibe, it's not your vibe.
Yeah.
But I would say though that like polishing the finished product can do a world of difference. Like looking at video before it's color corrected doesn't have the same uh, effect as when it's like
Edit a little bit, you know.
yeah. Yeah, for sure. Actually, I had a song that I was like, man, I know this song is dope. Like, I know for a fact this song is dope. Why every time I record it, it just sounds like trash. And I ended up experimenting super hard with like I made my voice sound super robotic and metallic and auto-tuning and all the things that I don't usually do, and then it like slapped. The song slapped. So it's sometimes it's just waiting for like one aesthetic difference.
Yeah. I guess for, like when I'm like singing live, I'll just be in my apartment, like just kind of sing. Like sometimes stuff just comes to me. Like a lot of times it happens in the car where I'm just like something just like mushes in my head. But like in my head, I'm like vibing to it. I feel like in my head, I'm editing it there to make it sound really good. And then if I did like a voice memo of it, it would just be like I told you, like, uh, you know, I'm like, oh, not what I heard in my head when I was like singing it, you know.
I think you should pursue this further. I think you're more into this than you think you are.
Yeah.
I think you should tap into this songwriting recording. You just get people on your team who know more than you do about like how to make it sound pro.
All right.
And then also really like get a decent mic and a decent interface, and then learn how to record at levels that aren't too loud, so or not too quiet. Like how to record yourself
Yeah.
at a level that's not maxing. And once you do that, then anybody else on your team can fix what you need to fix.
Yeah.
So
All right.
yeah. Also, if anyone wants mixing for cheap, hit me up.
So you've mentioned fashion like 3 times, and when Chris Adolph hasn't been in our class this semester, but when you know Chris Adolph, but Chris, maybe I should ask him if he can come in November. But uh, he when he comes, he only talks about fashion. Like the whole and even when live classes happened, when he would come and he wouldn't even play a song on the guitar of his. He would only just like hold the guitar and just kind of kind of pluck little notes or something as he was talking, and just talked about fashion. And so we talk about aesthetics in this class a lot, and like how do we articulate what our aesthetic concept is, or hear it in each other's work when we're feeding back, giving people feedback on their material. And I'm wondering if you can say more about like why aesthetics matter so much for you, and how it translates into fashion and every other aspect of.
Because I didn't even think about not about singing songs on this feed. I was like, after you said that, I was like, oh yeah, I totally could have like sang something. But yeah, it's because it's not. I don't. Yeah, that's not as helpful.
Yeah, no one's done it on the
Oh,
Zoom
okay.
stuff this semester. No one's played, because I think everybody's just heard the links that I've played, but
Right,
people
right.
like come and sing in class and stuff.
I love that.
Yeah,
That's that's Chris's take though, because he's just such a cute, goofy dude. But yeah, no, that's a good question. For me, it's a one big conglomerate thing. Like pop and culture and what's happening right now is such a virtually immersive experience, because you're looking at things visually constantly. That's how you're interpreting a lot of music, is you're looking at, at a screen, and you're at least looking at like the little 10-second video on Spotify of what they're doing, or you see them on Instagram, or however you check them out. I mean, the album artwork has always been pivotal, but also how these people are presenting themselves as a whole, even if it's like casual. Like I think King Princess is very casual about how they present themselves aesthetically. They'll like be very sloppy about it. on Instagram, but that's intentional. They're intentionally being sloppy. They're all selling you something, like, trust me. And she's like selling you nonchalance, you know. And for me right now in photography has never been cooler than it is right now. And so I'm curating currently a handful of photographers that I really like, and I'm putting myself through their lens. I want to put my brand through the eyes of these photographers that I admire to see what comes out of it. And to just experiment with how that will influence people's perception of the music. Like, there's also this fad right now where all these queers are wearing very Renaissance, like floofy, blousy Renaissance things with like the young courtier boy ponytails in the back, and I could not love that more than I do. I love that vibe so much, and I just feel grateful that I get to like play with that. It's pretty cool. I just want to be Interview with like Brad Pitt and Interview with the Vampire all day, constantly.
You had mentioned earlier about making sure to have like good mixing, and like work with people that know proper mixing. What would you say for like a time frame of what you should give that person to help you out would be? Because I know for me, the song I put out with my band, it definitely could be better as far as mixing it and mastering it. But I was like such in a headspace of wanting to get it out, and like so focused on trying to get it out, that I just like I went with what I had, and like now more that I listen to it, like it's fine, but I'd rather have something that has like proper quality to it.
I think mastering is really important right now because you want to A and B your song off of another band that you want to be as good of quality as. Not that you want to sound like them, but if you have a band who's in the same wheelhouse as you and their song just sounds louder, there's like this psychological, they've like done studies that people think the louder song sounds better. And it's totally true. If your song isn't mastered correctly, people could just not be giving it the time it deserves, when it was really just a matter of how well packaged it was. So yeah, mixing is a big thing, and mixing it so that it can be mastered well is a big thing. I used to mix my songs so loud, just like so blown out. And now everything I do, every single stem I have peaks at -12 dB. Like no instrumental track of mine is louder than -12 dB, because then when I send it through a mastering chain, it can do what it needs to. That rule actually changed a lot for me. I actually, when I listened to that last album, I'm like, man, I know so much more about mixing than I used to. So for you should just keep developing your ear in mixing so that you know exactly what to tell somebody when it sounds off. You know, like train your ear to know what frequencies are doing things, or even how to explain what your vibe is more correctly. I love talking about this shit. It's
cool.
great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, by the way, I just want to show you guys. This is where I live. This is a little shack that I built from the ground up. It's like a little tiny house, and it's like 6 foot by 10 foot, and it's just cute. I'm just show and telling you right now. And then on this side, we're building it into a larger house. So I'm gonna get a kitchen and a bathroom attached to this little shack that I built out. And I'm just excited about that. I don't know. Okay, who's got questions? Can we just, can I just ask for different people to share what their songwriting process is? I hope that's not too redundant, but I just am genuinely curious to know.
For me, I'll usually start with a melodic idea and then try to match up a chord progression to the idea. All in Logic, I'll kind of just sit down with the intent to write a song and then start plugging away until I'm either happy or unhappy with it, but there's an idea that exists on the internet or whatever now.
Awesome. What's your genre?
In my band, I do a lot of like pop rock stuff. But when I'm doing stuff by myself, it's just like I always try to do something that I haven't done before, whether that's like switch up a genre or use a different instrument or just do something weird with arrangement or something like that. I'm just like always trying to like not make the same song or the same like feeling twice.
Are we talking like Machine Gun Kelly pop rock or different or like less poppy than that?
It's like, oh man, it's hard because like so my band's called Gestalt, but we went from being like, kind of like super, like pretty big emo boys, like they're kind of like Joyce Manor or something like along those lines.
Are you the one who yelled "Goth Boy Click" at me?
Goth Boy Click, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then yeah, so I'm trying to like kind of lean into like the pop or the industry's definition of pop rock or whatever, and trying to secure the bag, if you will. But when it comes to like my art stuff, which is mostly like my solo things, I like draw a lot from like my favorite songwriter of all time is Jim Croce, and how his like storytelling was super strong, and I try to do that and like just maybe tell a story without actually having to tell like a word for word narrative.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, creating like a mood or a vibe, if you will, with sounds or whatever.
Yeah, that's how you make good pop music, is you just are unimportant about it, but then I just feel like sneaking in a good story. I think it's about like putting a good story in through the back door, or like not being like, gather around folks, I'm about to tell you about this man named John and he had, it's like, it's so much more about being completely immersed in a vibe and delivering it correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think emo right now is so fascinating. Like that stuff I was talking about, hyperpop. Hyperpop has this weird emo influence. Emo's just a big deal right now. It's because everyone kind of made fun of it 10 years ago, and you're always going to find that the next trend is like what people were kind of making fun of before. Like God forbid in 5 years the thing that gets big is like Stained or or like, I mean, we saw it even with Linkin Park. I mean, rest in peace, but like we saw it with some forms of alternative rock. I hope that doesn't come in as a trend, but that's what they're doing with emo. Is it was kind of corny to be like, you like the way I did the song of the, but if you use it in a way that's got like a cool trap beat or is saying some like nasty shit, that makes it transgressive. Like that's what makes it cool. You'll always find that people are like taking the corniest synth that they could, and that's what fashion is. They'll take like the corniest thing that you could wear, and then someone's gonna turn it into the cool shit to do. I don't
Fanny
know.
pack.
Exactly. I love that paradox and that irony.
Yeah, absolutely. I just got into 100 gecs this year, and it's like music I've never heard before, and it's just so fascinating because it's like that uncanny valley. Like this is almost like a pop song. This is almost like European house music. This is almost like just noise. Like it's so cool.
Yo, I was just listening. I was working out to 100 gecs last night, and Dorian Electra, who they like worked with. I'm really obsessed with Dorian Electra right now for the same reason.
Nice. I'll check them out.
Yeah, Dorian Electra is like queer pop god right now. They definitely are taking what 100 gecs does, but they're turning it into it's just bizarre. Just love it. Anyway, cool that you like 100 gecs though. What's the name of your project?
It's called Gestalt.
Gestalt.
Yeah, Gestalt. Available on all platforms now. Oh.
Okay, I'm looking you up. If anybody else can, like, if they have Spotify links or something, if you can put your Spotify link. Is it the blue one or the purple one?
I think it's the blue one.
Sweet. Oh yeah, you're killing it.
We'd rock till I die. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, cool. I'm gonna check it out. Yeah, if everyone can put their band names in, I'm gonna go surf around. And also, hit me up on Instagram. Anybody that wants to. Crimes of the Kitty. I'll write it down here. I'm super open to making beats with people, to just talk about mixing, to help mix or like give advice on mixes or whatever. Ransom showed me one. Ransom and the Royals.
Yep, that's it.
Cool. Awesome. Roger, I forgot to ask what is the time frame?
Yeah, we're about done. It's been generally going between 12:15 to 12:30. Is it? I'm just feeling it out. It feels like it's winding down a little bit. Did anybody have questions for Maria or anybody who hasn't talked or?
Does anyone want to voice like what their goals are in music and let them be as lofty as possible, but just to like say them out loud, and then everybody else has to agree to affirm whoever is talking? Does anyone just want to like claim or state out loud, not to make this churchy, but like anyone want to be like, yeah, this is what I want? And then we can all just be like, even if it's I just want to make cool shit for my girlfriend because I want my girlfriend to be impressed or whatever.
I want to make cool shit, and I want to like live and survive and eat and have a car and buy a house, and yeah.
Cool. Sweet. Keep putting stuff on YouTube.
All right. Feels like we can end it there. And yes, like Rachel says, fuck yeah, Mario.
Just do it. Just and my last piece of advice. I was talking, actually, I got this tattoo a few days ago with my friend Sunny. She's in this band Blackwater Holy Light. It's like the Black Sabbath of it's like a bunch of hot girls in Black Sabbath. Like they're just so cool and hot and make good music. And I've been friends with Sunny for a long time, and we were talking about our friend who is in the Lumineers. We were all kind of friends with this guy Wes while he was getting really big. Like you probably know that song that's like, "Hey, I don't think you're right for him. Hope in the morning where to be." I love the Lumineers, but Sunny was hanging out with Wes one day, and she was like, "Can you just give me advice for like how I should treat my band?" Two totally different genres. And he looked at her and he's like, "Just don't stop. Like you can't stop. You have to keep going." And I think that you should not underestimate that advice. 10,000 hours. Like if you haven't put in 10,000 hours, you shouldn't expect a return. And if you get it beforehand, that's great. Maybe you did something in a past life, you know, but like prove your worth with consistency and improving your craft. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here and taking the time
Yeah, thank you.
and not stopping.
No, just starting.
Okay. All right. Then I guess class dismissed. I'll send you an email in just a minute.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Oh yeah, and just before
Thank you.
before everybody goes, so next week it's Jeff Linsenmeyer, who actually used to work for Frank Ocean, and now he's working for some big country band. And his project is Dust on the Breakers.
Used
Also
to work for who? Sorry.
for Frank Ocean, and then
It's like the Frank Ocean.
yeah. And
Oh my god.
Jeff's met like you two. He was the auxiliary guy for the Fray, so he's like the guy behind like the instruments, and like the drummer didn't want to play, and the Fray one didn't want to play Saturday Night Live one time, so Jeff's like, "I'll play drums tonight." Like whatever. I guess people get bored. So he's next week, and then Wheelchair Sports Camp is the next week. And I think that's all I have lined up, but I might ask Chris Adolph now that um, that he came up in conversation. I've been actually emailing with him on Facebook anyway, so um, yeah, just to let you know, that's the schedule. And then just writing for you guys, writing like the Pattison lyrics one week, and then the showcasing your songs and responding to each other the next week. Okay, all right. Thank you again, Maria.
Thanks a lot. Good way to start the day.
Yeah. Take care.
Thank you.